All right, welcome back. So, every now and then I would like to do every now and then I get a chance to jump on Clubhouse, right? Clubhouse is a social media app where I hang out with a few people. I don't always have the chance these days, but every now and then I'll jump on just before and see what they're talking about and see if we can do a quick recap and give my purest opinion when it comes to a particular conversation that I find interesting. So basically, I was on Clubhouse just now, and shout out to Tunde. Tunde was here before. Tunde was doing like some kind of like I don't know where he gets his messages from. He claims that he gets them from the DM, but it's basically like a dating show. You know, so so we're gonna talk about dating for a second here. All right, so like a dating show, and then he was reading this thing. I don't know where he was reading it from, but he was reading this thing, and basically there's a lady, 34 years of age, 34 years old, with a child, but would not. I'm not sure if she makes six figure or not. I'm not sure that part, but she definitely would not settle for any man who makes less than six figure, right? And there's another brother, a couple of brothers there, I don't want to mention their name because I'm not sure if they're okay with that. And they basically took on the whole mantle of basically keeping for the man as usual, and basically saying, let me slow down on that. But basically, this person said that the woman will never find what she's looking for, okay? Will never find what she's looking for. She's 34 years of age. She's single mother. She will not settle for anything less than anybody that makes less than six figure. All right. And, he and another brother said they will never find what they're looking for. All right. So the conversation was going all over the place. There's multiple talking points coming up at the same time. But that was the single most important point it was supposed to be. But, as usual, when people are trying to make a point, okay, they say a lot of other things, and you can basically, they tell on themselves, okay? You can basically see where they're coming from. They have a certain type of bias, and that's what that is. My bias here is for the family unit, personally. And it's in my opinion probably the purest form you're going to find. Okay, it's not pure, but it's the purest. Okay, meaning I'm not for any sides, and we can tell based off of how our numbers have adjusted here. Like we're literally, our audience here is we're 48% male now, 51% female. That's pretty balanced. Okay, so, and the goal is not to balance, the goal is to tell you, the one that you're listening to me right now, what's more likely to work. Okay, but I also try to attack things from the there's different things, there's different variables, different multiple layers and dimensions of variables here, and it's not just the stats on 300 million people in America. That's lame. Okay, that's lame. We can quote those stats, we can use it to say, hey, these are the odds against you, but we need to have room in our head for the possibilities. Okay, there is probability, there is possibilities. Okay, those two things are part of our reality. Okay, those two things are part of our reality. You might want to call it the exception to the rule, right? You might want to call it the anomaly. The reality is that anomalies do exist, all right, and they are usually not predictable. So you can't really use the probabilities. We're human beings. We're like God. You can't put us in a box, okay? Why? Because people actually do have choices or options, just like the one the brother was prescribing. Basically, what he was prescribing, that if you're 34 years of age, single mother, you should be able to take anything that comes for you. Just take anything. Anybody who shows interest in you, run with it and go and marry that person. Come on, gentlemen. Obviously, I can't agree with that. That's just weird. Okay, that's weird on every level. Right? I can't agree with that. Why? Because I wouldn't have you agree to something like that either. So let's flip it on the end. Let's say somebody said, if you're a man, you're 40 plus and single, you're a red flag, you should just take anything. I would disagree the same way. Like, no, you don't take just anything. That's not how life works. That's not how attraction works. That's not how our reality works. The numbers that's being quoted are after the fact. They are the result. They are after the stories have been told. Then you read numbers, okay? We can use those numbers to look at what the odds are against you or for you, but we also got to apply it to a specific situation. The goal of those numbers is to help anyone in any bracket, in any phase of life, improve their chances of getting the results that they want. It has to be the results that they want. A person that doesn't want marriage, I don't have anything to say to them. They don't want marriage. There's nothing for me to say to that person. I can't go there and become a confused motivational speaker and a person who is going to shame you into submission to get to want marriage by force. I can't do that. I don't know what we get. What are we going to get from that? I don't understand, right? I think it's okay for people to say, these are my preferences. If I don't have my preferences, I will not settle. I think that's okay. So what about father figure for the son? Like you just said, father figure. We're going to figure that out. If the person doesn't want to be married, should they go and find anybody father figure for their son? Like that conversation cannot be that simple. That is weird. And that conversation cannot be that simple. Right? We can have that conversation. If a person deems it fit, I do agree that children need a father and a mother figure, a two-parent household, because it represents structure, right? Because life is chaotic as it is already. And we don't want a situation where we're subconsciously training or raising kids to think that it's okay, right? All right, good. We can have a conversation around that without asking people to settle when it comes to their self-esteem, when it comes to their quote-unquote preferences, right? Now, preferences can be unrealistic. But again, I'm not telling a person that's not complaining to change their preferences. That is weird. That is weird. That is weird. Now, if they're confused, maybe they really want it, but they don't want to admit that they want it, but they don't want to come off as weak, that is on them. We're all adults. Speaking of adults, we're going to be talking about Tiny and T.I.'s son today. Right? We're all adults. People have there's consequences for our choices. And we have to allow adults to be adults. We have to allow adults to be adults. That's the reality. Okay? We have to allow them to gain some frame of reference. So even if I'm going to offer anything of value to you in terms of my opinion, I got to have frame of reference. If you haven't failed ever before, you're probably not going to listen to me. Okay, maybe you failed, but you don't interpret it as failure. It's only me interpreting it as failure. That's not going to work either. Like, that's me talking to myself. That's not going to work. You need to see it as failure. And at that point in time, you have an open mind to receive what I may have to offer you, right? So for those of you who want to help and you think like our society needs the family unit and all this kind of stuff, you need to listen a little bit more than you're talking, right? You need to listen more than you're talking. If a person says, this is my preference, I don't want my preference, that's preference. That's not a crime. All right. Oh, no. But when I started having the conversation, they said, oh, it's not preference. This is just what the reality is. The reality is that a lot more people are staying single. They don't want to settle. Marriage rates are lower. Right. It is what it is. That's okay. But that's not okay. Well, I don't know what. Like, okay, it's not okay. What do you want to do about that? You want to shame people into what they don't want? That's clearly not going to work. You need to come up with something in between. Yes, on the fence. Something. What is the on the fence? Listen first before you start yawning dust. Maybe they don't see the value in what you're offering. Learn how to present the value that you have to offer. Learn how to do that. And then maybe there's a chance that they might see it from your point of view. If they don't see it from your point of view, they don't see it. This is what it is. You leave it alone. You let it go. Okay? So in my opinion, human beings operate much more off of possibilities. That is the reality. Okay? The reality is not the recorded data. Recorded data is past stories being told. What we know about human experience is that change is constant. It's always evolving. And to be frank with you, it's evolving to something that we've never seen before. And if you have problems with change and you find a way to justify it by saying, well, this is the way it worked in the past. No, there's no perfect ideology anyway. It just doesn't exist, right? The only thing that you have is your results. If you like something better, you have the autonomy, you have the agency, right? If a person, I'll leave you with this on this topic. If a person is waiting longer and longer and they're lying to themselves, whatever they want will become more difficult. That is across the board, both men and women. Okay? The talking point is that, well, it's women that want marriage. Men don't want marriage. That's false. That's false. That is actually false in reality. That is true on your paper, in the manosphere, in the red pill, and all this kind of stuff. You're talking about a woman fantasizing about happily ever after. You're confusing it with reality. The bottom line is that the men are crying more and more because they want marriage, they want a household, they want family unit. And women are saying, well, we have trauma. This is what they're saying. I'm not a woman, so I don't know. This is what they're saying. We have trauma from the past, from watching our mother, dealing with things I will never deal with. So maybe it's not that deep. And what I'm seeing is men are saying, no, it is that deep. You know you want this. Since you want this, you must want this. Well, who wants it? You or them? Because are you confused or something? Right? Yeah. So I don't know who wants it, but we got to bring it down to individual by individual. We can still have generalized conversations, but at some point, the people that claim it's general, they're the same one that will say, well, I'm a little bit different. My own life is not like that. Like, wait, I thought we were talking about the general. Are you confused? It's confusion, okay? So here we go again. People complaining about the dating scene have been out of touch, but yet you're the one coming and complaining to me, crying wolf and confused, right? So you got to be careful. You have to be careful on how you tackle this point. Ask yourself, what do you want? After you do that, make sure you ask, because if you don't know what you want, you will have a hard time listening to what other people want. After you've identified what you want as an individual, now the people you are interacting with, or you're trying to talk, or you're referencing, ask yourself, what is it that this person wants? Not necessarily what they say, but what is it that they actually want? Well, first of all, whatever they say, you have to kind of believe halfway, right? But that needs to match their action, right? If it doesn't match their action, well, it is what it is. You get to not trust them, right? Not to tell them what they want, but you don't trust them because there's a disconnect somewhere here. But I'll tell you what, okay? Can a person who is 34-year-old single, right? A woman, single mother, can she find a six-figure earner? The answer is a yes. That is an absolute yes. Is it probable? Probably not. Okay? Probably not. Why did I say that? I don't have the numbers, but if we're talking about in America here, probably not. The probabilities say not. But there's a difference between probability and possibility. If it's possible, what can she do to increase the chances of doing that? It's very simple. She first of all needs to acknowledge and realize that all 300 million people in America are not in her circle. She has maybe 20 to 30 people at most. That's if she's a social person in her circle. She needs to look in that circle because she will continue to repeat the trend in that circle, and she can change that circle. And she doesn't have to do it drastically. She can do it slowly. She can even change just one little hangout spot here and there. She can go to church. She can hang out at events, professional events and stuff like that. And most people, shout out to somebody who mentioned earlier, most doctors marry doctors. Most accountants marry doctors. I'm not sure how true that is. But if that's true, that makes sense to me because you marry in the activities of life. That's why when people say, oh, I've just been busy studying, it's like, no, cap, right? You've just been busy with other things that you haven't taken the time to assess. Not busy with school. That's not the reason why you're not married. You're not married because of some other peculiar reasons that you probably haven't taken the time to assess. However, you can change that. You can literally say, I'm going to hang out a little bit more, be a little bit more social. You don't have to change who you are. You just improve on your social skills. That will go a long way. You improve on your social skills, your emotional intelligence skills, right? You improve on your seduction skills. Seduction doesn't mean you're touching people and raising their dress. No, that's not what it means. It goes long before that ever happens, right? And if you don't have those things, you will struggle, just in general, just in life, right? Because it's actually a life skill, right? And the people that are doing it, some people do it naturally, some people learn it, okay? But ultimately, it's a learned behavior like everything else, okay? Some people are natural, some people are not natural. It is what it is. But the answer is, it is possible. Is it probable? If you have that result already, there's a higher chance you will continue to repeat the results that you have, unless you change something. If you change something, then something will change. If you don't change anything, you keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result, that's obviously what they call insanity. All right, so with that being said, I will be right back. Beautiful girl,
It's your love that I've been missing. I miss all your hugs, your touching and kissing. Make love on the floor, the couch in the kitchen. One love enough, we done enough.